The crimson sun of Veltraxia cast long shadows through the broken spires of Kethmora, painting the ancient ruins in shades of blood and amber. Kestra moved through the skeletal remains of what had once been a magnificent city, her 8-foot frame navigating the rubble with practiced ease. Each step echoed against the hollow stones, a rhythm she had grown accustomed to in her 7 years of solitude. Her muscular form, draped in pieced-together armor salvaged from the ruins, bore the unmistakable marks of Zanari nobility. The ritual scars along her arms that marked her as warrior-born, the intricate bone structure that spoke of ancient bloodlines. Yet here she stood, alone among the ghosts of her ancestors cast out like refuse. Too large, she whispered to herself, the words bitter on her tongue as she climbed the twisted stairs to her watchtower. Genetically flawed, incapable of bearing the next generation. The Zanari Reproductive Council had delivered their verdict when she reached maturity at 25. Her towering height, her broad shoulders, her powerful frame, all evidence of genetic deviation that made her unsuitable for the sacred duty of motherhood. The Council's science was absolute, their instruments infallible. Women of her size category had never successfully reproduced in recorded Zanari history. So they had exiled her, stripped her of her warrior rank, and sent her to die slowly in the wasteland. But Kestra had refused to die. She had claimed these ruins as her domain, maintaining the crumbling structures with stubborn pride, hunting the crystal wolves that prowled the outer valleys, and living each day as an act of defiance against the society that had discarded her. From her perch atop the watchtower, she surveyed her domain. The ancient city stretched for miles, its once golden spires now blackened by time and the harsh Veltraxian winds. This had been a place of power once, home to warrior queens and scholar priests. Now it housed only one, a woman deemed too flawed to continue her bloodline. The approaching storm clouds gathered on the horizon, their dark bellies pregnant with the electrical fury that could tear through the atmosphere during Veltraxia's seasonal tempests. Kestra had learned to read these storms, to prepare for the devastating winds that could level whatever remained standing. But this storm brought something unexpected, a streak of fire across the darkening sky, too controlled to be lightning, too sustained to be meteor. She watched, transfixed as the burning object arced overhead and crashed into the valley beyond the ruins, sending up a pillar of smoke and flame. A vessel, not Zanari. Their ships moved with different grace. This was something foreign, something from beyond her world. Kestra descended the tower with swift purpose, gathering her salvaged equipment and weapons. Her exile had taught her caution, but also curiosity. In 7 years, nothing had disturbed the monotony of her solitude. Now the cosmos had literally dropped something into her domain. The storm struck as she reached the crash site, forcing her to take shelter behind a fallen pillar while rain and electrical discharge lit the night. Through the chaos, she could make out the twisted wreckage of what appeared to be a small exploration vessel, its hull split open like a broken egg. When the storm passed and dawn's light filtered through the dissipating clouds, Kestra approached the wreckage cautiously. The metal was unfamiliar, the construction strange and compact. Inside, among the debris and sparking electronics, she found him. He was impossibly small, perhaps half her height, with pale skin and dark hair matted with blood. His clothing was fitted with strange devices, and his limbs were proportioned differently than any Zanari, yet he breathed, his chest rising and falling with steady rhythm despite the gash across his forehead. Kestra knelt beside the unconscious alien, her large hands surprisingly gentle as she checked his injuries. Alive, but hurt. Stranded, like her, but for different reasons. "Well, little one," she murmured, carefully lifting his small form against her armored chest. "It seems we're both far from where we belong." As she carried him back through the ruins toward her shelter, Kestra felt something she hadn't experienced in years, purpose beyond mere survival. This strange, fragile creature needed her help, and for the first time since her exile, someone's life depended on her strength rather than being diminished by it. James Haven awakened to the sensation of gentle hands tending to his wounds, his vision slowly focusing on a face that defied everything he thought he knew about alien physiology. The woman, for she was unmistakably feminine despite her imposing size, had features that were both noble and fierce, with deep amber eyes that held years of pain beneath their careful examination of his injuries. "Easy," she said, her voice a rich contralto that rumbled through the makeshift shelter. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. Your small body took quite a beating in the crash." James tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. The woman, easily twice his size, steadied him with hands that could have crushed him, but instead supported him with surprising gentleness. Around them, he could see she had fashioned a comfortable living space from salvaged materials, medical, supplies laid out with careful precision. "I'm James," he managed, his voice hoarse. "Dr. James Haven, xenobiologist with the Terran Research Expedition. Thank you for saving me." "Kestra," she replied simply, offering him water from a metal cup. Was a warrior of the Zanari. Now I am nothing more than the keeper of these ruins." Over the following days, as James recovered, they shared their stories. He learned of her exile, the crushing verdict that had branded her genetically flawed, unsuitable for the biological imperative that defined Zanari womanhood. She learned of his mission, studying reproductive compatibility and genetic diversity across species, searching for answers to humanity's own fertility challenges. "Your people cast you out for your size?" James asked one evening, as they sat by the fire. She had built in what once might have been a grand hall. "That seems scientifically impossible." Kestra's laugh was bitter. "The Reproductive Council's instruments are infallible. Women of my proportions have never successfully conceived. We are genetic anomalies, destined to die without contributing to the continuation of our race." James watched her profile in the firelight, noting the elegant bone structure, the powerful muscles that spoke of perfect health and vitality. His scientific mind raced with possibilities, contradictions to what she had been told. But more than that, he found himself drawn to her strength, her resilience, the quiet dignity with which she bore her exile. "Kestra," he said softly, "would you allow me to run some scans? My equipment survived the crash, and I'd like to understand Zanari physiology better." She turned to him, suspicion and hope warring in her expression. "Why?" "Because 7 years of study have taught me that nature rarely creates true anomalies. Usually, we just don't understand the purpose yet." The scans took place over several sessions, James's portable medical equipment humming as it mapped Kestra's internal structure. What he discovered made him stare at the readouts in amazement, then anger at the injustice that had been done to her. "Kestra," he said, his voice tight with emotion as he showed her the results. "Your reproductive system isn't flawed. It's magnificent. It's designed for larger offspring, more complex gestation. Your people's instruments couldn't detect it because they were looking for standard Zanari patterns." Tears, the first she had shed since her exile, rolled down her face as the implications hit her. "You mean I could have—" "Yes," James said, taking her large hand in both of his smaller ones. "And there's something else. Your physiology. It's compatible with human reproduction in ways I've never seen before. We could—" The words hung between them, heavy with possibility and promise. Kestra looked down at this small man who had crashed into her world and offered her something she had thought lost forever: hope. The revelation changed everything between them. Over the following weeks, as James recovered fully and his research deepened, their relationship evolved from caretaker and patient to something far more profound. Kestra found herself sharing not just her shelter, but her thoughts, her dreams, her pain, things she had kept locked away during 7 years of solitude. The council branded over 300 women in the last century, she told him one evening, as they worked together to repair part of the ruins' ancient water system. All of us sent to die because we didn't fit their narrow definition of genetic perfection. James's hands stilled on the crystalline conduits they were splicing. 300 brilliant, strong women, warriors, scholars, artisans, cast away because of flawed science. His voice carried a fury that surprised her. "It's not just wrong, Kestra. It's a crime against your entire species." She watched him work, marveling at how his smaller hands could be so precise, so skilled. Despite their size difference, they had learned to work in harmony, her strength complementing his technical knowledge. More than that, she had begun to notice the way his eyes lingered on her face when he thought she wasn't looking, the careful way he touched her hand when passing tools, the protective stance he took when they ventured outside together. "James," she said one night as they sat beneath Veltraxia's twin moons, "why do you care so much? You could have signaled for rescue weeks ago. Your people must be searching." He turned to face her, his expression serious in the moonlight. "Because you deserve better than Exile. Because your strength and intelligence shouldn't be wasted in these ruins. And because—" He paused, taking her hand in both of his. "Because I've fallen in love with you, Kestra. I know it seems impossible, our sizes, our species, but I can't imagine leaving you here alone." The confession hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Kestra felt her heart racing, a sensation she thought she'd forgotten. This small, brave man had seen her not as a genetic anomaly, but as a woman worthy of love. "I thought I was beyond such feelings," she whispered, her free hand coming up to cup his face with infinite gentleness. "7 years of exile teaches you to bury hope. But you—" She leaned down, bringing their faces closer. "You've awakened something I thought was dead." Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory, a meeting of two beings learning to navigate the beautiful impossibility of their attraction. Her lips were soft despite her warrior's exterior, and she tasted of the crystal fruit they had shared at dinner. When they parted, both were breathing hard. "I want to try," James said, his voice husky with emotion. "Not just the research, not just proving your people wrong. I want to build a life with you, have a family if we can. Show the universe that love doesn't recognize the boundaries others try to impose." Kestra's amber eyes blazed with a mixture of love and fierce determination. "Then we try together. But James, if we do this, if we prove that I can conceive, everything changes. Your people will want to study us. Mine will have to confront their prejudices. Are you prepared for that?" He pulled her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles with reverent tenderness. "I'm prepared for anything, as long as I face it with you." That night, as they lay together planning their future, Kestra felt something she had never expected to experience again: belonging. Not to a society that had rejected her, but to someone who saw her worth, who believed in possibilities beyond the narrow confines of accepted science. For the first time in 7 years, she dared to dream of children's laughter echoing through the ancient halls. Their wedding was a simple affair, witnessed only by the ancient stones and the setting sun of Veltraxia. Kestra had fashioned rings from rare metals found in the ruins, while James spoke vows in both their languages, promising to love her across all differences, all obstacles. "By the ancient laws of my people and the bonds of your heart," Kestra intoned, her voice carrying the formal cadence of Zanari ritual, "I claim you as my mate, my partner, my equal in all things." "And I claim you," James replied, standing on the raised stone platform she had built so their eyes could meet more easily, "as my wife, my love, my future." Their wedding night was a revelation of tender exploration. In the shelter Kestra had prepared with silk hangings salvaged from the ruins and soft furs from her hunts, they learned each other's bodies with careful reverence. James traced the ritual scars on her arms with his lips, each touch sending shivers through her powerful frame. "You're so beautiful," he whispered against her skin, his hands mapping the elegant curves where strength met femininity. "Every inch of you is perfect." Kestra marveled at his compact strength, the way his smaller body fit against hers like a missing piece of an ancient puzzle. When she worried about her size overwhelming him, he guided her hands to show her how perfectly they matched in ways that mattered most. Their lovemaking was slow, exploratory, filled with laughter and gasps of wonder. Where others might have seen impossible differences, they found harmony, her strength sheltering his tenderness, his gentleness awakening depths of passion she had never known existed. "I never thought," Kestra breathed as they lay entwined, Afterward, James's head pillowed on her shoulder. I never imagined I could feel so complete. This is just the beginning, he murmured, pressing kisses to her collarbone. We're going to prove them all wrong, beautiful. We're going to create something miraculous. 6 weeks later, James's portable medical scanner confirmed what Kestra's body had already begun to tell her. The readings showed 2 distinct heartbeats, alongside her own, genetic markers indicating successful hybridization that should have been impossible according to both species' science. Twins, James whispered, staring at the readouts with tears in his eyes. Kestra, we're having twins. She placed her hands over her still flat stomach, wonder and fierce protectiveness already blooming within her. Are they healthy? Will they? They're perfect, he assured her, pulling up detailed scans. Strong heartbeats, proper development, and the genetic combination is actually strengthening both bloodlines. You're not just proving the Zanari wrong, you're showing them what they've been missing. As her pregnancy progressed, Kestra bloomed with new purpose. Her body, previously seen as flawed, now cradled the impossible, life that bridged 2 worlds. James documented every change, every milestone, preparing evidence that would shatter centuries of Zanari reproductive dogma. The children are larger than typical human offspring, he noted during one of their evening sessions, his hands gentle on her expanding belly. But perfectly proportioned for your body. It's as if evolution designed you specifically for this. Perhaps it did, Kestra mused, feeling one of the babies kick strongly against her ribs. Perhaps all of us flawed women were meant for something greater than our people could imagine. By the 6th month, they could no longer hide from the outside universe. James finally activated his emergency beacon, sending carefully crafted messages to both human and Zanari authorities. The responses came swiftly. Disbelief, demands for proof, scientific expeditions launched from both worlds. Are you ready for this? James asked as they watched the first ships approach through Veltraxia's atmosphere. Kestra stood tall, her hands resting on her prominent belly where their children grew strong and healthy. I've been ready for 7 years. It's time to show them what love can create when given the chance. The birth chamber in the hastily constructed medical facility buzzed with activity from 3 species: human doctors, Zanari healers, and the hybrid medical AI systems they had reluctantly agreed to share. Kestra labored with the strength of the warrior she had always been, James holding her hand and whispering encouragement through each contraction. I can see the first head, Dr. Elena Vasquez announced, her human medical team working in careful coordination with the Zanari healers, who had arrived skeptical but stayed fascinated. The baby's crowning. It's happening, Kestra. The first child emerged with a cry that echoed through the chamber. Strong, healthy, bearing features that blended both parents beautifully. The baby girl had James's dark hair, but Kestra's amber eyes. Her father's compact strength within a frame that promised her mother's eventual height. She's perfect, James breathed, tears streaming down his face as the medical team performed their assessments. Kestra, look at her, she's absolutely perfect. Before Kestra could fully process the miracle of her first daughter, the second child announced its arrival with impatient kicks. Their son arrived 20 minutes later, slightly smaller than his sister but equally healthy, bearing more of Kestra's features, but with his father's curious, intelligent eyes. Hybrid vigor, murmured Dr. Thax, the lead Zanari healer, his voice filled with scientific wonder and dawning shame. The genetic combination has produced enhanced traits from both species. This should not be possible according to our models. Your models were wrong, Kestra said firmly, cradling both infants against her chest with practiced ease. They nursed immediately, their small hands grasping with strength that spoke of their dual heritage. All those women you condemned, all those bloodlines you ended, for what? Fear of what you didn't understand? The Zanari delegation that had arrived to witness the impossible found themselves confronting more than scientific anomaly. They faced a moral reckoning. High Counselor Vextan, who had personally signed Kestra's exile papers, stood at the foot of the medical bed with his own eyes reflecting the shame his entire civilization would soon share. Kestra of the House of Stone, he said formally, using the full title that had been stripped from her. The Reproductive Council has reviewed Dr. Haven's evidence and observed the successful birth of your offspring. We hereby rescind your exile and formally apologize for the grievous error in judgment that has cost our people so much. Your apology means nothing to the women who died in exile, Kestra replied, her voice carrying the authority of new motherhood and old pain. But if it means other flawed women won't face the same fate, then perhaps some good comes from our suffering. James, holding their son while their daughter slept in Kestra's arms, addressed both delegations. These children represent more than successful hybridization. They're proof that evolution works in ways we don't always understand immediately. Diversity isn't a flaw to be eliminated. It's a strength to be celebrated. In the days that followed, as news of the hybrid birth spread across both civilizations, the medical facility became a pilgrimage site. Zanari women who had been told they were too large, too different, too flawed arrived seeking hope. Human scientists came seeking understanding. Politicians from both species came seeking to claim credit for a breakthrough they had tried to prevent. But, in the quiet moments between the chaos, James and Kestra marveled at their perfect children. Vera, named for truth, and Kai, named for strength. The babies thrived, growing faster and stronger than either parent species' children, already showing signs of enhanced intelligence and adaptability. "What have we started?" Kestra asked one evening, as they watched their 6-month-old children play with toys that challenged toddlers twice their age. "A revolution," James replied, pulling his wife close as their impossible family settled into domestic bliss. "We've proven that love doesn't recognize the boundaries others try to impose. And these two?" He gestured to Vera and Kai, who were now attempting to stack blocks in patterns that resembled Zanari architectural principles. "They're going to change everything." 5 years later, the ruins of Kethmora had been transformed into a thriving research center and sanctuary city. Over 200 flawed Zanari women had found new purpose there. Many partnered with human scientists and explorers, their children representing a new generation that would bridge worlds. Kestra stood in the rebuilt watchtower, now serving as an observatory, watching Vera and Kai play in the gardens below with a dozen other hybrid children whose existence had once been deemed impossible. Her exile had ended not with acceptance back into Zanari society, but with the creation of something entirely new, a place where love and science combined to nurture miracles. "No regrets?" James asked, joining her at the window with baby clothes. In his hands, evidence of the third child currently growing within her. Kestra smiled, her hand resting on her expanding belly where another impossible life flourished. "Only that it took 7 years of exile to find you. But perhaps that was necessary too. Perhaps I needed to learn my own worth before I could accept your love." Below them, their children's laughter echoed through the ancient stones, no longer the sound of ghosts but the music of the future. A future where being different meant being precious, where love conquered false science, and where one human's gift had given an exile the greatest treasure of all, motherhood, family, and hope, reborn.